Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Smash Dispatch podcast. I'm here as always with my co-host Ultimate Shadow X.
Hello, hello.
Hello everybody. First of all, two things. Just want to go right off the bat. I'm not gonna have gameplay in the background. Obviously, the video is not monetized. Because obviously this is a Smash Brothers podcast. We cannot go without talking about everything that went down the past week. Yeah, I think it's important that we talk about it. I think it's important we talk about what we can do in the future, give our thoughts on stuff. If you guys want, we're not gonna, what we're not gonna do here is we're not gonna go into all the allegations and talk about all the specifics, what everyone did and all that. If you want to hear more about in-depth conversations, first of all, there's a bunch of internet stuff about it, or you can go watch my 2-hour stream archive. It's on my channel. It's called Let's Talk About Everything, and that's where I go in depth about talking about just all the, not all the specific scenarios, but the ones that were there up to that day and all that stuff. So if you want specific details on what happened and stuff, you can go there. But we'll speak loosely, obviously, just to give an understanding of what happened and what we can do for the future. So for those of you, not necessarily uninitiated, but for those of you, the few that don't really maybe keep up with everything, or even if you do, there was basically, it started just the past 2 weeks, right? We've seen just in the industry, whether it's like IGN, whether it's movies, whether it's everything. It's like we've seen a resurgence of kind of like people coming out and telling their stories of whether it's abuse or sexual misconduct or all this stuff. And it finally hit the Smash scene, and it started with a person called Senpai, and then it basically roller coastered into pretty much almost a lot of the major Smash players, the pro players and content creators as we know them now, being outed for various degrees of things, whether it's sexual misconduct or it's allegations of some sort or pedophilia or a bunch of ranging things. And yeah, it kind of it spiraled basically. One domino fell and it felt like 50 others fell down too. There's if you guys go on the Smash Bros Reddit, there's literally a entire thread of everyone basically with specific statements that came out for them and stuff. So yeah, it's been a heavy week. Ultima, do you want to start?
There is that mega thread on Reddit, and I think that's why we're not really going to be focusing on all of that sort of things, because we obviously aren't going to be conclusive to everything, and right. I think it's not our place to sort of talk about this sort of stuff in place of what the victims have actually said. If you really want to know, read what they have to say about it. And also I think it is important we have to oust everyone who is a part of this, but I think we can't just keep obsessing about the names. We can't just keep right. This person did blah 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 and blah blah blah, and it just keeps spreading them in favor of the victims and what we can do better. It's sort of a looming thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why we just sort of wanted to put this in sort of the focus of how things can change, what can change. I mean,
right.
Because again, this is not just limited to Smash. This didn't start with Smash. It started with a lot of different things. It's a lot bigger than just Smash.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we can talk about it sort of in a broader sense of what can change, but definitely Smash is sort of the focus of this discussion, and we just, like you said, it kind of would be hard to sort of brush this under the rug and act like nothing was going on. So yeah. I think this is just the best way we feel we can about addressing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And just quickly off the bat, guys, I'd urge you not to also take your anger out on the game, right? This has nothing to do with the developers and the team and all that stuff. They haven't done anything, and they're just putting their work into the game. So don't stop playing the game or stuff just because of this.
Again, don't let this ruin the game, or even it's hard to say, you just can't just ruin, the entire community
right.
for you, because obviously this is a very deep-seated problem. But the point of it is now this time to strike. Like, now that we're getting all these people out and we're trying to make changes, like, this is a time to reinvent and rebuild everything, you know? So, and that's sort of like what we want to talk about is ways that can be done to stop this from ever happening again, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was like just in general, just like really horrible, shocking stuff. I mean, you not to, I don't want to go into the list, but like the obvious ones, like you have like your Nairo, your Zeros, your Simba, and you have just a lot of these players that like were not just Smash players, they were like now content creators, and people were subbing and looking up to them, and it's really unfortunate because, you know, it's you know, we always talk about, and I've talked about this, of like, this isn't about the Smash community. That's like, you don't, when you go to play, when you're part of the Smash community, there's no contract you sign that says, hey, welcome, you are now part of the Smash community. You know, these are people, and it's people that gotta be held accountable for their actions. And that's why I think, you know, the issue is more rooted, I'd say the issue is more rooted into people. Obviously, they're playing the game, but that doesn't mean it's a game problem. It means it's a problem around the culture within that gaming community. You know, there was just clearly this culture that a lot of these people were into, that they felt like, I mean, which a lot of celebrities and famous people get into, which is basically, if I'm better at this than you, it means I'm a better person, which or like a bigger entity, which is obviously not the case. I mean, this week and in general life has proven that time and time again. And yeah, I mean, like where we could start, like the thing about all this stuff.
Yeah, like that's I mean, that is definitely one of the like biggest points is you know, there's whole thing of we put these people on a pedestal that we really shouldn't, and we look up to them, you know, because they can put on a face. Like, it's hard because, you know, I think it's hard because it's not like you want to be inherently distrustful of everyone that you come across, right? Like, I at least I like to think so. And so, like, you know, when you see like somebody like, you know, they come off as so personable, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, they have fun and they do stuff for charity and you know, blah blah blah, and then they're like this. I mean, yeah, and you're correct. At the end of the day, it's really just because they're good at a video game that a lot of people sort of would look up to them and sort of, you know, treat them like they were someone that they weren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know how you begin. Like there are, like, you know, we're gonna try to talk this about as we can, but there are things like this that I feel like, how do you even address it, right? Because it's like, it's so easy to say, oh, well, we can't do that, and now, like, in retrospect, you know, we can say we can't do that, but like, how to prevent that sort of attitude from happening again, I don't know. It's hard to say because it's a very deep mental thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, of course, in a lot of these cases, this is like a mental problem of like these people just doing an action that's like, it's clearly wrong, and they did it. I don't know if it's like, it's got to be a mental thing. Some of it, I'm sure, is very predatory, but like a lot of it comes from like deep-seated of issues in life and stuff. So that's like a hard thing. But I think, you know,
I think what we can at least do to start, now that like the foundation was shown to be sort of rotten, is I think if we were to sort of rebuild from here, I think the biggest thing is just that whoever is, you know, helping arrange all this stuff, just we need to hold everyone accountable to the same things. Like a lot of this was like, you know, these people were doing this shit and people knew, and they were they were either covering it up or just didn't say anything, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I think if everybody's held to the same accountability, that's definitely going to be like, well, people just can't get away with this, no matter how good at the game they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if somebody's aware of this shit happening, like, they just have to say something. It doesn't matter, like, you know?
Yeah, it's like, I understand sometimes, you know, like, it's not your story to tell. Like, if you've heard about this, like, you can't necessarily come out guns blazing and be like, I heard this and that, without having necessarily like full proof, because these are serious claims you could be making. But we do need to try our best to get these stories out there. I mean, like you think about all this, which is insane, of like, this is, I mean, I know it's most big players, but it's like, this is just the stuff we know, like the people that were willing to say something. This doesn't count like people that just don't want to say anything.
No, and
totally
the whole thing about that is, as you've been saying, it's really hard for all these victims to come forward about this stuff. They don't want to
Absolutely
relive this stuff. It's hard for them,
Yeah.
So it's so easy for people to say like, well, why didn't these people say something earlier? Like,
it's not hard.
they didn't feel safe to, or were conditioned not to. It's not that hard. I feel like there needs to be some sort of safety net
Right.
for this sort of stuff, in terms of like, these people should be able to feel like they can come out and say this stuff.
Yeah.
Because
it's that feeling. I think where it comes from is it's a lot of factors. One, it's like traumatizing. Two, it's that fear that, okay, once you put that out there, you suddenly feel like that's gonna be your story forever, and that people are just gonna treat you differently because of it. So it's like, it's definitely, I totally get why it would be scary to put out there. It's not something that you could like. It's not something you could just put out and the person who did it is screwed. It's like you put basically a light on yourself that like, now you assume, which I don't think we should, it's like gonna be your label for life, right? And that's what's so scary for these people that put it out there. And I think we definitely have to do a good job as a unit, as everybody, to be like, that this isn't gonna be your story forever. Like, this is what you went through. This is something I'm sure will affect you in some way forever, but we don't want this to be your life story. We want you to have a better life. We want you to grow because you're a great person, and like you're doing good stuff, and not just because of you were a victim of some kind, like I feel like there's definitely stuff we got to do mentally to help these people kind of continue life and be okay with sharing stories without it feeling like they're gonna be labeled as a victim forever,
Yeah, and I think also a part of it is, as you've seen some of the larger names out there.
Yeah.
A lot of them are get pushback because they're like, oh, well, blah, 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 like, you can't just say that with no proof or whatever. And meanwhile, it's like, that is partially true, but a lot of these people have to like sort of prepare all this stuff when they go public about it. And I think they also, are like, oh, well, if it's such a big person, who's going to believe me? You know what I mean? And I feel like that's sort of part of why we need like some sort of accountability standard. Like, because again, if these big names aren't held accountable and they feel like they can just get away with it, that's also like a big surmounting pressure against anyone who has to say anything out about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, to touch on the point you were saying earlier about like, these people that were put on pedestal and stuff. It's like, and I agree. Like, you should not go into every, like, I don't think the decision here is go into every content creator or person you meet with like your guard up. You just need to, like, let's say you look up to, I don't know, you were like, someone looks up to you and me, and like I think I would prefer like you take influence, right? You enjoy the personality, you support. I believe in supporting content creators, because I don't think you should suddenly be like, well, I'm suddenly not gonna start supporting these people because I'm scared of X, Y, and Z. I think it's just that you have to, as long as you don't pedestal, when a story like this of them comes out, you can quickly be like, holy shit, you are horrible, and I am moving on.
I'm done.
I'm done.
Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of people have come to terms with recently. Especially because some of this stuff is so gross. It's just a matter of like, like, holy shit, I can't support this. I think
exactly.
That's really what it has to is. You just have to walk away.
Yeah.
It's not. It might be hard that you might have been, I might have supported someone like this and I had no idea. But at the end of the day, you actually don't have any idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it does. Yeah, it does feel bad to know, but at the same time, you should be able to walk away and just say like, I understand, because I agree with your statement. I mean, I've met some of the people I've looked up to in the past at conventions. I've talked with them. They've been nothing but nice, but it's not like I know them at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
I met some.
Don't act like they are the person that you know, but at least, you can take influence and sort of respect that as what they've done, even in that context. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's like, again, I totally get it. It's like, it's just disheartening when you feel like but it's like I was literally on Japan time a week ago when D1 was on. I went to Evo last year and I saw a Zero and I saw a couple of others. It's like, I totally get that feeling of, especially, I mean, the difference between big time celebrities, right, and video game esports players, whether they're content creators or whatever, is like, they're so much more approachable, right? And because of that approachability and discussion and stuff, you feel like you know them, right? But that shouldn't stop the it's like it's a matter again of like you should have a certain amount of trust. I think that's fair. I think that's okay. But don't like I've had so many people DM me telling me like, what do I do? This is the person I look up to and everything, and I'm just like, just next time, just I'm not saying be prepared for the worst, but like just know that just take influences from people and be proud of what they've done stuff, but just don't put them on this extra tier that like basically if they're fucked, you feel like you're fucked internally. Like you can kind of you can just there's so much if anything when someone's added like that, it's like go find someone new to support. Go find someone else you find is doing good work that you personally believe is doing good until obviously if something happens. But it's like I think it's like we should support good work more than we should just escape from it at all costs.
And then also I think again when I was talking about earlier with the whole foundation thing, I'm not saying that like. I think, when we're rebuilding right now, I think it's not like we can't I don't think having sort of pillars of a community is bad, because I think that's sort of like gives people it's more inviting to people, blah blah blah, like it's sort of like it gives people sort of a solid place,
right.
You know what I mean,
right.
To like some solid people to turn to. And again, like we're saying, it's not like you can be inherent. We don't want like this to be a thing where it's like, oh, you can't trust anyone. That's not what this is about. Like, there needs to, because even in the sense of like, oh, you can't trust anyone. Well, if you can't trust anyone, then if you're a victim, who do you go to? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
So I am not against like saying that there should be like a pillar of the community, or at least like a network or a council or something like that. But like I said earlier, everyone in that scenario has to be equally held accountable as anyone else, you know what I mean? And I feel like there also needs to be a lot of transparency, because how much of this shit was going on for years and it was just kept away from people, whether it was covered up or just hidden, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a difficult thing. And again, it's been said before too. Yeah, it's really said like the thing about pillars is it's like it's like I think that like I feel like just in general the fighting game community like as a whole. I mean, like you look at this is a fundamental issue going on. I mean, Evo was literally canceled. With different allegations of different figures in even just the core fighting game community. So clearly there's just a big need to reform and rebuild like kind of the entire fighting scene in some way. But it's like I think we just need to. We need to work as a community, right? It needs to be not like we don't need to have like who is gonna be the new voice, who's gonna be the new like leader, the person. It's like, and like we've seen those posts of people being like, here's the only four that are like gonna be the. It's like no. We need to just do this as a team. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. We need to all come together, because the only way we've seen what happened. Like I said, it might sound contradictory earlier, but we've seen what happened before if we put all of our eggs into sort of one basket.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say like there should be pillars of the community, I think there needs to be sort of just individual groups that all can hold each other accountable, because we all need to come together in this situation.
Exactly. Like I think pillars should just be like the people that like the people that are doing a lot of good and they have a bigger voice and they actually like help and have a platform in that way. I don't think it should just like I feel like the best difference we have in fighting game communities and stuff, whether it's like the difference between like real life is that there's literal hierarchies, right? Of like you've got like a manager, you've got a president, you've got this and that and that. Whereas like in fighting in gaming communities and stuff, it's more it's just arbitrary, right? It's like there's no literal like it's like it's not like any of these players were literally nominated to be the head leader of Smash community. It's stuff we mentally associate to people. It's mental labels, right? So it's like I feel like in a good way, all this has kind of broken that mental label and been like, all right, we need to just reform here of just like, hey, let's just obviously again, there's people that we could look up to and there's people that are like still like have been here for a while in our pillars in some way, but it's like we need to just work as a team together to not only just we need to when something is bad, we just need to push it all away. There's no exception. There's no like, oh, but I like him, but you don't. It's just like a look. No, if someone is making someone very uncomfortable in this, they need to know that they're not welcome here. Again, maybe they could find another home in some other place. I'm even like all these people being accused, right? Like for some of them, yes, they should totally like just be like labeled for life and done. But for a lot of them, it's like you just need to pay the consequences of your actions, right? You need to, whether it's serving time, whether it's doing something else, you need to do that, figure out your life, and go somewhere else. And I'm not saying take your shit somewhere, like don't put that shit somewhere else, but it's like if you are,
but like yeah, you're not welcome here.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just yeah, and speaking of that, like there are obviously varying levels to everything that's going on right
yeah, exactly.
now. And some of them. I feel like some of them are, just because some of them aren't like, as bad, that doesn't mean like they shouldn't be talked about as part of the problem, right? Because there's been a lot of people coming out just from a lot of women that are like, it's not specific sexual assault, but people at events, they'll flirt or they'll say uncomfortable things to you.
Yeah.
And that's still that's still part of like a deeper problem that's been going on regarding how people are treated,
Yeah. No, there's definitely like it's hard to get because like you gotta some of these stories are things where people can learn from. I mean, we've had some of these people come out and say like I don't necessarily think this was bad or I had a part in this, I just want to know why and stuff like that. It's like there's some cases where it's just like it's some shitty actions that you've done that you can atone for and serve in some way, but there's some things you just need to be held like fair accountability for. Doing something within a gaming scene doesn't make it different than like it's the biggest example I give is like if you did what you did at an office versus what you did here, it should be the same. It shouldn't just be that like it should be all
like convention spaces, event spaces, and shit like that. Like just because you're some person in a community doesn't mean that it's any less like scummy to do. And I feel like I don't know, because I feel like that's also a part of it too, where people treat events, and we'll get into like for actual physical events, I guess after this, but like for shit like events, for shit like con spaces and stuff like that, like it's still a public setting. Like just because it's like a celebration of gaming or whatever, and you're having a good time with your friends doesn't make it any different. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like it's what we said, right? Of like there's just like with all of this, a lot of it is just the idea that like it's just about being it's like it's not hard to just be a decent human being. Like a lot of these things are just like atrocious. It's just like it really isn't hard, and it's like I really think like if anything it should be really easy. So when someone doesn't do it, it's like what are you doing? And again, like I totally understand social awkwardness, not knowing how to talk to people, right? Making some wrong like words or statements, right? But as soon as it becomes actions and as soon as it becomes like multiple infringements of even something small, it's like you just gotta like there just needs to be like a specific actions taken for specific things. It's like we've just, and I mean like the good thing about a lot of this is that I'm kind of glad it all happened now, because could you imagine like physical Evo was taking place still in a month from now, how weird it would be, and how
who knows what shit would have been going down there. Absolutely. Like honestly, if this is the shit that was happening, thank God there were no tournaments for most of this year because of the virus, because this shit would have been continuing to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like,
I mean, I'm the dam is busted. I mean, I used this analogy with some friends, but to sum up, it's basically like what happened was, let's say when you're building a house, you have like a foundation, right? And so let's say in this scenario that the foundation was rotten, right? There were people at the top who were committing this sort of atrocious stuff, and it was being hidden. So you have a foundation that's rotten. People decide to build around this foundation instead of addressing the problem. So they build this house, it's dangerous, but they're still letting people in, and now the house is collapsed and people are hurt.
Exactly.
That's basically where we're at right now, but we can still rebuild the house, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's it. It's like if anything, we're lucky that, like I said, all this, it's good that all this came out during this time where we can't have locals anyway, and we can't have tournaments anyway, because that way, once next year at some point or whatever later on, there can be some kind of like there can be a new wave of understanding and stuff like that, and a new wave of events that hopefully have updated rules and things like that.
because I think it's easy for people now to reflect and think, what do we need to do? If this happened in the middle of like a big tournament season, I think that would have been way more hectic in terms of people like panicking. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we fix this?
You'd have like
so
many empty seats there. You'd have so many like events like just shut down midway. You'd have it would just be like more of a shit show. Like obviously this is a shit show for people, but it's, if anything, it's just better that it's a digital thing where no one, like, there was no events that really, I mean, there's events that have been canceled for COVID, but like not because of this. And so, yeah, it's
I think the situation we're in right now has given people more time to reflect and sort of think, how do we approach this in the best way?
Yeah.
As opposed to it being like very last minute and panicked. Right. You know what I mean?
And like, I don't know, like, what do you think, like, what are new rules at physical events we can take? Because obviously there's just the moral stuff.
Now,
right?
I have not really seen anyone specific talk about things besides this one called Team Region. I've not really heard of any of their events, but a lot of the things I saw here are things that I would like to see. So for one, I think the biggest one for me is attendees that are under 16 required to be accompanied by a guardian aged over 18, and they have to be a family-friend relation. They cannot be someone else in the community.
Right, just it can't be like a random guy who's 18. Right, okay.
Yeah, or like it can't be like a top player at an event. Okay. That's like your guardian.
Okay.
I think that right now is probably the biggest one.
That's definitely a big
because, one. Yeah, like it just we need to make sure that kids who attend this stuff like are protected in some capacity. Now, like obviously, having a guardian that's like over 18 is just a friend. That's not like going to guarantee anything. There should be security at events and sort of a network where people say like, hey, something's going on. I need to like, alert somebody.
Right.
But I think this is, needs to be the new standard. And it does suck because I know when I was a teen, like I didn't want to go to this stuff and have like a parent with me.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I mean, now that I'm seeing this, like obviously I'm lucky that nothing happened to me while I was there. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks that I think one of the bigger takeaways from this that really hurt me is like I'm very passionate just about gaming in general. I think it's a wonderful hobby, and every event that I've ever gone to, I've met great people, I've had great times. But all this coming out, it's like, well, shit. Obviously, people couldn't have the same experience I could.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like,
and so I think something like this to make sure that that's the case and that people are protected are very important. And I think another thing is like I think this mingling of minors and adults. If you're in the context of you're playing your set, that's fine. But anything post that, I think that also needs to be
I agree.
Stopped
totally
and as part of the culture.
Because like, obviously you cannot stop because they're usually secret ever. Like you can't stop these like house parties or stuff where like you just have no way of controlling that. But like official parties or big parties, it's like we need to stop stuff like that. I mean, you have this thing you shared of Team Region. Like one of my favorite things is venue bars will no longer be available nor permitted. Or this one, attendees consuming alcohol or being drunk on off-site at non-18 plus events will result in indefinite ban. That's the thing. Like for me, like a big part of this is especially alcohol and drugs or whatever. It's like it's definitely harder, obviously, to control some of these things outside, but it's like we need, if we can on the indoor side prevent as much of that as possible. Because listen, it's like it's kind of that thing of like we always hate to see it, but it's like it's that thing of one person, like a few people show that like they can ruin certain things. It's like people have shown that clearly. Like drinking and stuff, it's like we can't have that there. It's like that's clearly like people. If you can't control how you drink or whatever, it's like then you ban it. I don't drink. I never do. It's like I've never liked that concept. But again, I understand people like doing it. But it's like you cannot like this idea of people being like I was drunk. That wasn't me. It's like no. It's there's clearly an issue with you and in general just. Drinking at events and stuff should not be a guess because it can make people feel uncomfortable. I've had
exactly, and it can make you uncomfortable, and it's just dangerous for your judgment and sort of that scenario of like if you're going to be interacting with other people, and I think that that's sort of part of the culture where like tournaments are a big party and everyone's hanging out afterwards and blah blah blah. I think that mentality needs to be reined in like a lot.
Yeah,
clearly.
I agree.
I think tournaments, if at the actual events themselves, should be seen as more professional. You know what I mean?
I agree. Like again, it's okay to like celebrate and stuff, but we need to we need to be okay. Like people are always just scared of this, and you need to stop this fear of just like being the quote unquote like party pooper, right? Or ruining it. It's like, no, I think it's okay to just have these mental barriers, knowing when to, even if you're 18 plus, knowing when to stop drinking, right? Or knowing when to, again, if there's a minor there, not be like, they can have one drink, it's fine. It's like, no, we need to be okay with people just being straightforward and being no, right? A lot of problems in general in society and life, it's when people make that exception, right? That like, oh, for this time it'll be okay. Oh, we can get away with this time. It's like, no, that needs to stop being the case. I'm not saying that doesn't apply to everything in life exception, but I'm saying for specific scenarios like this, is like, because the exception can be when shit goes down, like it's like, we always think it's not going to be us. But for some person it is. And it's like, it's clear. Yeah. Like I said, whether it's having an adult, watching, and again, even if it's like minors aside of like, obviously having an adult there and making sure they're not part of any older events. So it's like, for the older people, it's like, you guys got to be respectful towards each other. I mean, you people are adults, right? It's like and I've seen people be like, it's not like when you're 18 or something that like there's a switch that goes on your brain that's something like you're an adult. But it's like, it's not that. It's just that you have to understand that there's a certain age where you are just being held accountable. Like you should be learning and understanding this stuff before that age, because you got to know, especially once you reach that age. Though even if you think you're young at heart, like that, you're not. It's like this, like, society, right? Is, I mean, again, it's like you've been growing. It's like you're not like, yes, you are like dumb when you're 16 or something, but you're not like brain dead, right? You should already be learning steps. And I mean, you're basically almost through high school by that point. You should be learning how to treat people and how to be better to each other and stuff. And again, I understand it's harder because like we don't know where people are raised, how they're raised, stuff like that. But there's just certain actions and things where you just got to say no,
Yeah, and I think the biggest part of the problem is when you're that age, like I think for us it's easy to say like, oh, like just this person was bad, just walk away. But when you're like younger and like you are in a gaming community and you like look up to these people,
yeah,
and so like it would be so hard if someone was like, I know if I was younger and like somebody like that I thought was safe and clean and like, well, they're a good player and they want to hang out, like that's cool. Like why would I say no? Exactly. You know what I mean? Obviously the onus is on that person. Not the younger one. I'm talking about the person who's in the scenario, like who would be inviting it. It's on them to not do that. And I think it's hard because like that, like I said, that's deeply ingrained as like part of the culture where like these people were doing this sort of thing and getting away with it. And it's so easy to say, oh well, couldn't you see the warning signs? Like a lot of that, these victims, they weren't in that scenario. Like that's not what they were expecting to happen because of their own like view of that person. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know, like, again, like, having a guardian on at all times at events for minors, I think, that's extremely important because if you're with someone like that, like, the chances that you would actually follow through or have something happen are definitely lower, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But there needs to be some sort of way that, like, that sort of behavior is sort of, like, prevented, before it starts. Like, somebody needs to be like, hey, that's not allowed, like, because, again, like I was saying earlier, and this is something that is like hard to address. Like there are a lot of these people saying like someone was being flirtatious, like and in a way that's like made me uncomfortable. They said these things to me at an event, and I feel like there should be sort of system where it's like somebody says something like that, like or you see that happening, like that gets like reported immediately. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
Or again, it's it's like. Normalize just telling someone that's not okay. Like it's like it doesn't have to, like if someone just says something like kind of sexual that wasn't like clearly meant for that, I would just be like, hey, that's not okay, don't do that. Like you like there's actions. It's like you have to like just we can't just obviously have this like fear mongering of like making sure anyone who does any mistake ever is just fucked for life. But it's like you have to understand certain actions will, and there's just we have to. I personally always believe it's like you got to look case by case. You just got to look at each scenario, assess it, assess what word was used, assess what thing was done, and take action accordingly.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is like in sort of the culture in general is just like this is to be expected. Like this is just how people are, right? And they don't have to be. Like, there's always that whole thing of like, oh, like smashers, like, oh, they don't have social skills and they say this to women and blah blah blah. Right. But it's like, why would? And that's just sort of like a gaming general thing. There's a lot of like, oh, well, gamers will do blah blah blah. But why is that seen as just how it is without people trying to actually fix it? You know what I mean? Like, like that shouldn't be tolerated or accepted anymore. That should just be like, this is not how it has to be, and we will report this behavior. Yeah, you know what I mean?
And like another point of like is one of the benefits of all this happening like this is the idea of like now there's also a mental barrier of like a lot of these people know like look how easy it is to out someone. Look how easy it is to show like we live in 2020, right? We live in an era where everything you have can be screenshotted, can be reported, can be filmed or whatever. So with a lot of these stories out there, it's like a lot of people in the future or whatever, even if like it's like will think 3 to 10 billion times before doing something shitty, because they will know, like they will see that a lot of these players like were like in hiding for years doing what they did, how were outed too, right? And it's like it's just not worth it. It's like these people's lives are destroyed and ruined for the most part. The accused, right? Like the assholes. It's like it was. It's. I don't think any of them, maybe unless they were really psychotic, would sit there and go like, yeah, I would do it all over again. But it's like, that's the thing. And so it's like we definitely, at least in a good way, it's just like the Black Lives Matter stuff or all that stuff where it's like, yeah, now people will start to think twice before saying X thing or saying Y thing because they know they can be held accountable. It's just a general low tolerance for assholes in general. It's like we're getting to that point where,
exactly,
which I'm very happy about. Of just like, no, it's like we don't live in this. There's no, I'm not saying for every case, but there's no middle ground for some of these things. It's like, no, there's like there is a wrong, there is
just
a
out,
right,
yeah, just get out, period, yeah, get out, period,
yeah,
right,
exactly.
We don't want you here,
exactly.
And I feel like that could also be part of like something that needs to occur at events is. Now, I've been to events, I've seen security, but I wouldn't say, like, security's lax.
Yeah,
like, let's
sure,
be honest, right? People are coming in and out with who knows what sometimes. A lot of this behavior was occurring, and it feels like people either weren't reporting it, which, as we said, like, a lot of people just sort of came to expect that this is what would happen, especially like women. Like, I've definitely been at events where I've seen, like, someone awkwardly talking to like a female player before, and I think definitely I felt like, are they friends? I don't know. Like, is this guy being a creep? Should I say something? And I think a lot of people are like, well, it's not my place to. But I think now we're at a point where absolutely say something. Exactly. If you sense that somebody is making someone else feel uncomfortable, just take it, because you don't know where else it could lead if you don't. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's basically what I was feeling about in that scenario, and sort of like, tolerance for it. And I feel like security definitely, it can be, like, I think security needs to start to sort of be more present so that people feel like that isn't a thing, and also just people need to feel like they can go to these people and have this stuff, like, taken care of and taken seriously, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it's a difficult balance. I think another thing, another big thing would be, like, a big benefit we have here is like now, there's been a big cleanse, and I think we could see the rise of, just like a new group of people, like a new positive good wave, and for the ones that still, the big ones that have still remained, right, and hopefully are still good, they can continue to influence for the better, influence for the positive. I don't think, like we said, this shouldn't be like now we should just be on edge the entire time. It's like, no, now we should hope, because I like to hope in people, we should hope that the people that are here still know have seen what your actions have consequences can do, and we can have a new wave of people that have grown and are doing good things for the community, who are just, hanging out, who are just like, whether you're a Smash player, a content creator, or whatever the hell, it's like you need to know that's like, let's say someone like me, or even like you, like both of us, like you have a big Twitter following, right? I have like a Twitch channel. So it's like, it doesn't make us any difference. It just means we have a bit more of a responsibility because there's way more eyes on us.
Yeah, exactly. The responsibility is bigger to talk about these things and make sure that we're an example for others in the sense of like that, about how to sort of, what's considered proper behavior. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what's so crazy to me about a lot of these bigger people is like they know that public eye is on them, and I think that's also part of it. Is like for some people they realize it's a responsibility, and other people they're like, well, this just means I can get away with whatever because I'm a big name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Of like it's
and unfortunately, what sucks is like obviously you can say like. I'm not saying like, you have to do events. You need to do background checks or blah blah blah. Because I think like that's excessive for like a hobby. But like I think it's hard to say who and who aren't these people are until it happens. And I feel like that's what we sort of have to navigate right now. Because obviously it's great that people are coming forward and speaking out about these people, and we're ousting everyone who needs to get out. But unfortunately, like this stuff only happens after it happens. Exactly, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like that, and it's like, I feel like it's that again. It's so hard, because we can't go at every event and do like a mental background check on every single person. That's like that would take forever, and that would just not make sense, right? I genuinely do feel like, again, shitty things like this, right? At least like they show that people will have zero tolerance for this and will build a better future. And then again, all that matters is that. From now on, again, hopefully it doesn't, but if something is to happen again of some kind, that person is right away held accountable. Like there's no wait period. There's no like 5 years later we find out about it. It's like these peers just need to be held accountable. They need to be kicked out ASAP, right? You need to feel like you need to feel like if you're a victim of some kind, that it's like you can't, even if you're not even, if you feel like you're about to be in some way, talk about it so that it can be avoided. Talk about it so that other people don't have to go through it. It's we just need to. I think it's like that's again. We can here work as a team. There's no. That's the thing about us. There's no literal hierarchy. It's not like there's a president. There's a government that can make these new laws and rules. Obviously, we have like teams and stuff that have specific rules they can make. But it's like there's a humanity aspect to all this where you can just simply tell others and tell us, no, you're out. You can't do this. And I think like for the benefit of stuff, we can just work together just to build a better future. We could just like all we need to really do, right, is one. Support good people, support people we believe in without necessarily pedestaling them, and just making sure that these events are safe for me. I don't want to like it. It's hard to be the person to be like, when I go at an event, I'm gonna make sure I'm protecting everyone. It's like, that's not necessarily realistic because obviously like you're busy with your set, people are talking to you, you can't just be looking around left and right.
And also there's a lot of people who don't know that a lot of this is happening. Because. Let's say you like the game and you're like, oh, well, this is the first event I'm going to. I mean, I wouldn't certainly expect everybody to know about what's going on. No, you know what I mean? But those are also the people we need to protect the most, are the new people, the younger people who come in, because they don't know, like, they don't know everything that like they don't know about like conduct, and they don't know about like, oh, is this normal? Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like. We need to make sure that they are protected just as much as anybody else,
Exactly. No, again, like that's why it's like the fighting games or just gaming events are different, right? Because again, games are, for the most part, unless like you're a GTA or something, it's like they're rated E for everyone, right? They're rated E 16 plus or whatever. It's like they're things that have multi-aged, like people. Like I've been to Smash locals with like super young people that are better than me. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I've seen people say like, maybe we need to split events by age, and I think that's so hard to say because I've met people of varying ages at events, and I talked to them and enjoyed my time hanging out and like playing the game. And I think separating by age is I think is excessive. I think that doesn't really do anything because it's the same. Because I've also heard of like maybe we need to do like a scene that's have events that are just only women, blah blah blah. And I think that's a noble idea, but I think that also just like separates. It's like, oh well, we can't have you with everybody else.
To me, that's
because that's not solving the problem. That's like skirting around it because it's like, oh well, we're not addressing the main issue. You know what I mean?
That feels like we'd be regressing. Like the whole point is that like we could just be
everybody can come to these spaces, and if you're good at the game, that's all that should matter. Exactly. Like in terms of like. What happens at events? You know what I mean?
I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to these events for usually two reasons: to play your game and to socialize. Right? These are the two pillar reasons that you're going to these events. Right? And I think it should just stick to that without going excessive on both ends. Right? You shouldn't be. I mean, you shouldn't be like someone who's playing the game and being an asshole too, and you shouldn't be socializing in a shitty way. It's like I've been to locals where there's people that are just like they're rude, they're like in there, they're drinking, they're smoking. It's like
and also like what is this like sort of mentality that people like go to events to like hit on people and stuff like that? Like that's so foreign to me, but we know that's part of the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's so weird. Like again, like. I feel like there has to be some sort of like, I feel like as we see more and more teams coming out and more event organizers coming out with new rules, I think there is going to be a bigger push towards like, obviously this behavior is not okay and we're not going to tolerate it. We'll just have to see what happens going forward when events do open up again. And I really hope that we do see more stuff like, we need guardians on the scene. We need to... sort of stop this partying attitude and make sure that people aren't involved that aren't of age, and to make sure that these parties aren't like a part of like aren't a regular part of the culture either. You know what I mean?
It's just we need to just be better as a community. We need to even just like we need to just be able to again communicate with each other better, to understand things better, to now we've shown that these people, you should be scared if you've done something shitty. Like you will most likely not get away with it. You could get away with it maybe year 1, year 2, month 1, month 2. It's like, but eventually your story will come out and it'll just be worse if anything, because of how much time has passed there. And that's the thing. It's just this entire thing just in general just shows that look, this happened, right? Horrible. Again, there's no world where what happened was a good thing to the victims, but at least what it can do is just build for a better future. There's zero way that there's literally all this does in the future is benefit the future events where now there will be a fear of this, of being a shitty person, right? There will be more rules to make things better as a whole. It's like, I think ultimately this is kind of a change we didn't even know we needed, but I'm glad that has now come to light,
Yeah. And again, like these are very, very big, like these are very, very big questions that need to be answered. And I know no matter like, I don't care how long it takes until we find a solution. We just need to find one.
Exactly.
And if that means like, after this is when stuff starts to reopen in terms of events and when stuff is like, gradually getting better with the virus and everything. If that means that we still don't host events because we want to figure out how to make people safe, that's what we have to do at this point. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's in life, there's never, not a single time in life is there a world where everything is 100% A-okay. There's no flaw. Everything's going to be good at the end. It's like there's always going to be some issues, but it's about just being able to find those issues and push them out as soon as we find them. That's really it. It really is like this will all build a new foundation, a new future that will benefit everyone. Again, like I said, whether right now EVO Online was canceled. Obviously, that was going to be a weird event in general anyway. And it's like all these people, they're going to figure out. They're going to figure out new rules. We're going to figure out ways to change. Like again, I don't want people to say, oh, the fighting game community is dead. Smash community, like it's like. Now, there's going to be new challenges. Like, obviously, Nintendo, who's already been we've talked about this on this show. It's like Nintendo is super not keen on competitive stuff. They host their own stuff, but like, you know damn well they're going to back off, or if they do an event, like double, triple, quadruple down on being sure who they're bringing in, right? Who they're talking about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's a entirely different discussion that for a different day in terms of like how this is actually damaging the scene. I mean, obviously it is, but especially in regards to sponsors and to esports, sort of like, you know, if this is going on, if you're like an esports like company or like or if you're like a brand and you want to like sponsor one of this stuff, I would just like, if I was like a corporate person, I would like pull out. I'd be like, holy shit, what the fuck? Like, I'm getting out of here.
I know.
And again, like, not to get sidetracked, because I think, again, that's not as important as keeping people protected, but it is something that, like, the damage is there and it's been dealt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see where we go in the future. Again, whether it's Nintendo or Bandai or Capcom or Evo or all these stuff, it's like, I think all these companies are going to. This should not ruin things for everybody. Like, the good, we as the good people and the good people that are out there should not just feel like, well, fuck, I guess I'm not gonna learn this because I'm gonna feel like shit. I'm gonna feel like I'm being watched and that I'm like a lord. It's like, no, it's like this should empower the good players. This should hopefully we'll bring a new future. We'll bring one that works better. We'll bring one that'll benefit more people in the end. That'll want to bring more people. It's like, I really just think this is kind of a cleanse we needed.
This is obviously very well needed, and this is the time now to strike while this is still going on and sort of figure out how the best way to go going forward will be. You know what I mean? Because we can't just get complacent and let this happen again, because too many people are gonna get hurt.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say. I don't.
Yeah, no, I think. I mean, obviously, I think we could talk all day about this and what can be done and sort of the problems with the culture. I feel like at least I've gotten off what I feel like I've been wanting to say about it in regards to this. And obviously, there's going to be more developments. Yeah. So, you know, we'll keep our ear open. Sure. You know, and all I can say about like right now is like, you know, a lot of people are saying be good to each other, and that is true. Like, have respect, have decency, but I think that should be what's expected. So I think at this point we have to go above and beyond and make sure that we're protecting others, you know, protecting innocent people. You know,
it's not enough to not be a shitty person. You have to be like anti-shitty person. Like, you have to be like, no.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yes, that's a very good point.
It's like, no, we can't just. I just don't think it's no longer okay to be like, you know, I'm not racist, I'm not an asshole, I'm not sexist, I'm not this. It's like, you have to.
Like saying like, oh yeah, I'm not racist, but this doesn't affect me, so I won't blah blah blah. No, we can't do that anymore. Like, you have to actively fight against this stuff. Yes,
exactly. So yeah, with that, I think that wraps things up, guys. Thank you for listening in. Let us know in the comments below changes you want to see, or just if you've learned anything, or any of that stuff. So hopefully, yes. Well, anyways, next week we've got a pre-recorded episode we've done, so it'll be about classic mode and stuff, and then we'll come back a week after that, and we'll see what we do then. So guys, thank you all for watching. Stay good, be better, be all that stuff. You know what it is. And we'll see you all next time. Peace out.
Peace.